Octavia's gonna do it.
She said she was gonna do it.
Renata Sills,
Present.
Stephen Muhammad,
Here.
Barbara Rogel Miller,
Present.
Hubert Massey, Maria Lambert,
Here.
Tanya Jenkins is absent, Lolita Haley,
Present.
Vice Chair Tim Colleen, Chair Betty Mizaraka.
Present.
We have a quorum present.
Moving on to B.
Mhm.
Barbara, you approved on B. Oh, sorry. Approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I have two changes to the agenda that I would like to offer under unfinished business.
Certainly.
The first one is an update from our legal counsel on items that we had them analyze from the last meeting. And then the second one is a report from the service agreement subcommittee.
Okay. You may proceed.
So if we could just make those two adjustments to the agenda under unfinished business.
Okay. Would you repeat those so we have it for sure?
Yes, ma'am. The first one, which would be, we'll say it is E1. That is an update from our legal counsel related to items that we had them to review for us from the last meeting. And then E2 would be a report from the service agreement subcommittee.
Thank you. Okay, moving ahead.
I'll make that motion
Motion to the amended agenda.
to the amended agenda.
I'll second that.
Mo-
Take a
We
vote.
vote on it.
Okay.
Vote on amending the agenda and then we vote on the amended agenda after.
Okay. Okay, let's vote on the
Amend-
unfinished business
No,
amended.
amendments.
So we have to
We
vote,
have a-
Betty, first to amend the agenda,
Right.
and then we vote on the
So we have two
amended
proposed
agenda.
amendments.
Mhm.
It's been moved and seconded, we need to take a vote on those amendments.
Okay. Okay, on the first, all those in,
Yeah.
all those in favor on both of them?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Now we vote on.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we adopt the amended agenda.
Second.
Been moved in second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carried.
Item C. Item C.
Yes,
Item C.
she said she's saying something.
Yeah. I see.
Item C, approval of the
Oh, I
minutes
see.
That's where.
from the March first.
Item C,
Mhm.
thank you. Approval of the March 1st, 2024 meeting minutes.
Move approval, Madam Chair.
Discussion. Just want to make one.
Don't have a second yet.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
And then if we may,
Mhm.
could we, everybody on this committee, just like every other committee, ask the chair to be recognized before? We just can't have people, which we've
I
had.
didn't hear you ask
Just-
that, Tim.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
Can we move on, please?
Mhm.
Moving
All right,
ahead,
we'll play games then. Sure.
So, Madam Chair, we're on item C.
I know.
Mhm.
Approval of the March 1st, 2024 meeting minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
And I thought that it was moved in second.
Right.
So now discussion.
So I have some discussion. Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to correct Russ Ballant's name under item H. His actual spelling is Ballant.
It's Ballant.
Yes,
Duly noted. Thank you.
yes, ma'am. That was all I had, Madam Chair.
Is there anything further on that? Mm-mm. Okay, moving. Okay.
We moved the
Mhm.
minutes. They were seconded. We had discussion.
Mhm.
We had a member suggest a change in spelling,
Oh,
which will be included. Now we have to approve the minutes as amended.
all those in favor of approving the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carried. Okay. Now are we on D,
Mhm.
report from the chair.
You have anything?
I don't have a report.
We move.
Okay. Under E, unfinished business.
Madam Chair,
It'll be,
in the amended agenda, we put two items under our unfinished business. The first one was a report from our legal counsel on the analysis that we had asked them. And then the second one was a report from the Service Agreement Subcommittee.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
So do we have those reports now?
Name and title, sir.
Good afternoon. Attorney Robert Gross. I'm from the Perkins Law Group. I attended the March 1st meeting. From that time, our office did get some written correspondence from members of this authority asking to look into a couple issues as it pertained to an operating agreement. I guess first I would just say the one question that was discussed in the previous meeting that the people were interested in is that Oakland County has extended their agreement. It looks like 2 years, but it's actually more like 3. Their agreement, I believe, goes until December of 2026. I personally did have the opportunity to speak with the chairperson of the Oakland County Art Authority, be Dr. Raj Paul. In speaking with him, it sounds as though it's their position that instead of having another 10-year agreement that would be continually amended, their position was that it would be easier to just pass or create another service agreement every 3 years instead of amending one over the course of 10 years and then passing a new one. So he thought that that gave them a certain amount of nimbleness, and that was the reason for the 3 years instead of 10. As to, I believe there's other questions about. Madam Chair?
Yes,
If I could ask him a question?
certainly.
There was also some thought about the 3-year putting the service agreement on parity with the cycle of disbursement of the funds. Do you remember that part?
Could you elaborate on that question or on that thought?
That there was, since the service agreement was committed at that time, it was out of cycle with the funding pattern for the county millage. So by having a 3-year agreement, they were getting back in sync with the funding pattern. That was part of the discussion.
So does that mean for it to end at the end of the year, for the agreement to end at the end of the year?
I believe so.
I can't, articulate every reason I wasn't at the
Don't worry.
discussion. I got
No
the
worry,
end,
no
the end
worry at all.
product. I think maybe for why this authority was curious is that possible? Are we, and the 10 years for the first one was necessitated. All 3 counties did a 10-year agreement. That's not the case. That does any agreement going forward does not need to be for 10 years, I think would be.
Through the chair, if I may. So even though they have a 3-year agreement, they're also able to make amendments to that contract in that 3-year period, correct?
Absolutely.
So it really doesn't matter. I think if we do for the 10-year and we have as many amendments as we need, or they'll accept, I think that we'd still be okay.
So how is it going to be addressed here then?
Madam Chair?
That question's not before us yet.
Mhm.
You need to recognize Steve.
Yes, Mr.
Yes, ma'am. I think he was just giving us information
Oh, okay,
for our decision
Okay.
later in the meeting.
okay.
So if he could, if you're done with your report, that's great. If you got some other things you want to share with us prior to our decision, then I
That's
think
right.
we're good.
I would be happy to answer any more questions if there were any, specifically, and again, with the timing of the extension of any operating agreement, I could answer more questions if people have them.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any more unfinished business?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair, our report from the Service Agreement Subcommittee. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. First of all, I would like to thank my subcommittee colleagues, you, Madam Chair, and Member Seals as well. We worked on this thing for at least a year. We have had 3 in-person meetings with the DIA, 1 meeting amongst ourselves. We've conducted a historical analysis of the process from the first service agreement to now. We've also did a 3-county comparison once we got the information from the other 2 counties to take a look at how we lined up with what they were doing and what we were doing. We did have a town hall scheduled, but there was a miscommunication about the town hall meeting information. So we'll have to reschedule that town hall. We still want to have the town hall because we want to hear from the public. And then depending upon the feedback that we get from that town hall, we may offer another amendment or something to the agreement. And then finally, we had a discussion with the commission chair as well, and that's where we discovered that some of the commissioners in our downriver communities weren't participating as much and maybe had not been reached out to by the DIA. So we're going to speak on that when we talk about the agreement. And then I'd like to yield to my colleagues if there's anything else you all would like to add on the subcommittee.
If I may, Madam Chair, I wanted to thank the committee and our entire board for the help that we've received, the committee has received for this entire process, because we didn't do this alone. You know, we had input from almost every member of this board. And I wanted to just, again, thank you guys for reading that fine print and giving us your opinions and, you know, just considering what the job is, what the task was. And I think that we've come to an agreement and come to an understanding of the process and what needs to happen. And I'm hoping to fulfill the needs of most of our residents as we move forward with this agreement. And that's all I have.
And thank you for all your work that you put into that.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
talking to the subcommittee, when you have this public meeting, will you notify the board members of this public meeting so that we can Zoom also or participate in some way?
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am, we will. We'll make sure that the board knows. We'll make sure that we have a group of people who provide public comment to us. So they're obviously very interested parties. We'll make sure that they know as well and the general public.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments? Okay. Any other unfinished business? Okay, then moving on to new business. Please,
New business number 1, approval of the service agreement with the Detroit Institute of Arts.
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry. Okay. Any other new business? Okay. Then we're moving on to approval of the service agreement with the Detroit Institute of Arts. Yes. Do we have a motion on that?
I'll second.
Been moved in second.
Discussion?
Any discussion?
Discussion? Sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
In our research that we found, and I want to thank members Rogel, Miller, and Lambert for giving us this final draft to go through. On page 3 of the agreement, under 2.4, privileges to Wayne County residents, 2.4 B, K-12 services. We would like to increase that amount from $150,000 to $250,000 to accommodate the additional students who have not been very participative in the downriver areas. And since there are 260,891 students in Wayne County, we would like to increase the 16,000 Wayne County students up to 26,000, which is roughly about 10% of the student population in Wayne County. So that's the first,
Would you repeat that
yes, ma'am.
last
Yes, ma'am.
statement about the 150,000?
Yes, ma'am. So on that item, says the DIA will set aside an annual transportation and programming allocation of at least $150,000 to support the in-museum field trip and in-school K-12 programs for Wayne County schools with the goal of serving 16,000 Wayne County students. Two things we'd like to change there. We'd like to change the amount to $250,000 to reflect the additional students that will be reached out to in the downriver area. And we'd like to increase the amount of students that we will be targeting from 16,000 to 26,000.
Now, how, can I ask a question?
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
How will you determine that that has been actually done?
Well, DIA is not here, but in the past, they have provided us with annual amounts of students that have attended their programs and the amount allocated for that program. So it'll happen at
That must be a piece of paper, but we really don't know if that's true.
fair
Daddy, we
point.
can't hear you.
I said, that's a lot of students to keep track of. How will we keep track of that? Because we can't just take a piece of paper and say that that's been done.
On that one, ma'am, I would probably, I see our vice chair has his
Yes.
hand up.
Commissioner?
It's a matter of reporting from the DIA. They report to us all the time. They report to us during the year. They report at the end of the year, how many schools they took down, how many students that represents. They report to us all the time.
Can I?
And I consider that this board and DIA are in a partnership.
Mhm.
I don't think, and we have 2 board members of the DIA here that can talk about it from that end. But I'm under no concern that the DIA is going to lie to us.
I don't think they would lie, but I think that we need to have something other than just a figure.
Well, they report figures and they report what schools.
Through the chair, please.
Yes.
I did speak to Julie and I asked her the same question. I said, why is it just set at 16,000? She says, this is the number that we met. She says, but we always exceed those numbers.
Right.
So if we wanted, I think, a more detailed report from her, we could probably get one.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Sure.
Yes.
And we'd have to think what we're asking too. Right? If you don't ask about it properly, you know, we don't have to do that here,
Mhm.
but, you know, to specifically say to them what has to be above and beyond what they're reporting to us now has to be in there. I don't know, but we'd have to be very specific with them that this is what you'd have to produce for us. Personally, I don't have any issues with their numbers.
Through the chair,
Yes.
I'd like to address Steve Mohammed. The 26,000, you're saying that it should go up because downriver has not been served. What would you report to the board what you found out about downriver?
Yes, ma'am. When I had a conversation with Commission Chair Bell, she let me know that downriver communities had not really been spoken to or addressed by the DIA. So we thought that low-hanging fruit would be for the DIA to partner with those commissioners to utilize them to talk to the superintendents of those districts, and we could increase the amount of participation.
Do you have, through the chair, do you have any numbers? How many students are involved in that downriver area that you're talking about?
I do not have those numbers, but we could provide those.
But, and it's your suggestion that we raise that to 26,000, another 10,000 to cover the downriver schools.
Yes, ma'am. Plus that reflects a mere 10% of the amount of children that are in Wayne County. And I'm figuring that working together with our partners, we could touch 10% of students in the county.
Yes, Commissioner.
I support the amendment. I think any discussion of downriver, we don't have any data on that. We've got one brand new commissioner from downriver, but they're not the schools. We get the reports. And if we think downriver is an issue, not the politicians, but the actual schools, we can go through the reports that we have received and actually see how many of the whatever downriver means, schools go, and they're always contacting all of the schools in the county with regards to this. So I would support the amendment, but I would have I don't want any discussion of, well, targeting downriver, because we don't know if that's true or not. A couple of commissioners might not know what's going on, but that doesn't mean the schools are not being served down there. So I support the amendment, but let's not talk about downriver that we're targeting a certain place. When the DIA reports to us, we can have that conversation with them. And we can say, oh, okay, for the last 6 months, this is who's come down. But have you moved the amendment, sir?
I'm in process of moving
Okay.
a few
I'll just leave
minutes.
it be.
Okay, thank you. And Madam Chair, the point, Member Vice Chair, is that the DIA using all available options to be able to get the word out to people. And when we found out that they weren't using the commissioners as effectively as possible, that's another option. So maybe that's something that they could do. Let me move on to, oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back to professional development, item C. We would like for the staff, identified staff of the juvenile detention facility to be included in this teacher professional development program that they have, events and trainings that they have throughout the year. We understand and we're sensitive to the fact that the DIA doesn't have experience working in juvenile detention environment, but we still want those kids to be able to have access to the opportunities. So if DIA can work along with the JDF to identify a couple of staff members that can participate in this program, and then those staff members can take whatever learnings, whatever materials and supplies back to the JDF, and under the watchful eye of the leadership there, roll out a program. Then you've got DIA in the detention facility.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful suggestion. So how do we make that work then?
I think if we just include them in the teacher professional development program, then that should probably be enough to give them what they need.
Through the chair, I have a question.
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
we know that they are not specifically involved in the program, that they're not targeted already? It just says K through 12 professional development. I would personally assume that they would be included in that, but you're saying they are not.
When I checked with the leadership there, they had no knowledge of it.
I know that.
But does that mean that it isn't offered to them is what I'm asking? They had no knowledge of it, but perhaps they didn't get,
Madam Chair.
no one reached out to them?
Madam Chair, if I could just answer that, in our subcommittee discussions, when we discussed JDF specifically, there was from Julie and
Okay,
the other
so you
people.
talked to them.
Yeah, was not happening.
Okay.
And this
that's
is
what
one
I
of the
wanted
things
to-
that we requested from the beginning, the very first meeting. So this is something that, we've discussed.
Madam Chair, if I could
Certainly.
continue?
Please.
Okay, under section 2.8, additional procedures,
What page?
that it's going to be on page 6. And there are 3 bullet points at the top of page 6.
Mhm.
And we'd like to change that 150,000 to 250,000 to reflect the previous amendment earlier in the agreement.
Is that all on that one, or do you have others to add to that?
No, ma'am. Since you're here today, I think if we're successful in approving this, then you'd be able to sign it today.
Yes.
Those are the only amendments that we'd like to offer. I'd like to yield to my subcommittee members if you all have any additional. Oh, that's one as well. Yep. We did also want to change the term. I'm about to tell you. Page 7. Thank you. 4.3, changing the initial term of this agreement shall commence on April 1, 2024 and shall run through December 31, 2026.
2032.
We wanted to say 2026 so that it could be in alignment with Oakland County.
Okay, do this again in 2 years.
Is that the same as Oakland County you were saying?
Yeah, so that'd be 3 years.
Is that a motion?
I'm sorry, excuse me, through the chair, may you please restate the term?
Yes, the 4.3 term, the initial term of this agreement shall commence on April 1st, 2024 and shall run through December 31, 2026.
It says here different to that on mine.
That's what we're amending.
Yes, ma'am, that's what we're
You
amending.
want
Oh,
us to
okay,
amend?
2026, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a motion?
Yes, ma'am, those 3,
Can you repeat them again?
oh, yes, ma'am, I can. Okay, let's start with the first one on page 3. On page 3, and that is item 2.4B,
2.4
B
B.
on page 3. And that is the DIA shall set aside an annual transportation and programming allocation of at least 250,000 to support the in-museum field trip and in-school K-12 programs for Wayne County Schools with the goal of serving 26,000 Wayne County students. So changing from 150,000 and 16,000 students to 250,000 and 26,000 students.
Now, they will be coming down to the DIA, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I suggest that we take each one separately because you don't want the whole thing defeated
Yes, ma'am.
if there's an issue over one part of it. So I would request that the motion be amended to take this first change and vote on it to the 250,000 and the 26,000 students.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I'd love to accept that friendly amendment.
she's wonderful.
Yes. So the first amendment that we would like to put forward is the change to $250,000 in support of the in-museum field trip and K-12 programs with the goal of serving 26,000 Wayne County students. That would be our first amendment.
That's a wonderful goal.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
and that would include the amendment to section 2.8 to change it to 250,000 there as well.
Yes, sir.
Correct? Okay.
That's correct.
That's okay.
That's correct.
Wrap it all up in one.
Yep, that's correct.
Is there Madam Chair, is there a second on that motion?
we have, it's been seconded by Hubert
Okay.
Massey.
Okay, thank you, Hubert.
All those in
I'm
favor?
sorry, who was the motion? Who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
And it was- All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carried.
Yes, ma'am. The second motion that I would like to make, and maybe our legal advisor can give us some legal advice, which is on the same page 3, item C, teacher professional development. Some type of way we wanted to ensure that the juvenile detention facility staff or representative is included in this professional development program.
Would you repeat that, please?
Yes, ma'am. On page 3, item C, K-12 teacher professional development.
Right.
We wanted to ensure that the juvenile detention facility staff is included in this free educator professional development events and trainings throughout the year.
You made a motion. Should be seconded.
Well, I was in process of making the motion, but I'm asking maybe for some advice from our legal department of how should that be stated in the agreement.
Good afternoon again, Robert Gross. Obviously, the final word comes down to this group as to how they would like any of these things to be stated.
Mhm.
Maybe it's helpful just to read through the current wording, which is the DIA will offer free educator professional development events and trainings throughout the year. Is the concern that free educator professional development wouldn't already include these staff members?
It currently doesn't, and we would just want it in writing that it should, that is our request.
Could add in including the staff members of something along those lines.
Sure.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think you hit on it. At the end here where it says in partnership with Wayne County Schools and including juvenile detention facility selected staff.
Perfect.
So if I could make that motion as well.
You're hired.
For item C on page 3, to include at the end of the paragraph in partnership with Wayne County Schools and selected juvenile detention facility staff.
That's perfect. Is that a second motion? Are you Massey seconded? All those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion?
Yeah, discussion.
Discussion. Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to be very cautious here. The Art Authority is not a unit of Wayne County government. We're a freestanding governmental body. I want to be careful of mandating Wayne County. I think we might need to hear from Corporation Counsel on this. I'm not opposed, because the other thing is juvenile detention facilities are mandated by the state to have a charter school in there, right? So there is a charter school in there. Now, we'll want to hear, I think, from Corporation Counsel whether we can mandate something like this or not, because that's Wayne County. And we're not Wayne County. Can we mandate Wayne County what to do? I'm not sure. And then the other thing with the language, since that is a charter school that's already in there, perhaps it's been an oversight just in terms of contacting their staff, because I don't know, getting actual Art Institute personnel into the JDF inside that building, that would be very problematic. So if we could have that discussion, and they'd want to have, the DIA would want to have their counsel look at it too. This language may already cover, because it is a charter school that the state says you're a school. So in terms of contact them, say, hey, you want to send some staff over here for some, to the DIA for some education, that probably fits under the mandate. But I would like to hear from Corporation Counsel. I'm not opposed to that, but if we already have language that covers that, then we should get a quick opinion on that. And if it does take an amendment after hearing from council, and they say, yeah, cool, go ahead with it, I'm fine with that. But I'm a little nervous about doing that amendment here. Because you have county government, you have the DIA, you have the Art Authority. Those are three separate, independent. I'm a little nervous about putting something in here that sort of binds Wayne County to something, when the overall language might also just do it. So,
Madam
thank you,
Chair,
Madam Chair.
prior to hearing from our legal counsel, if I could just clarify for Vice Chair, including the JDF in this process would not put the DIA in the juvenile detention facility. It would put the juvenile detention facility staff in the DIA's program. So they'd be coming to the DIA and learning and participating just like other teachers in the Wayne County school system, which this document says we're in partnership with.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I wonder if we could use the language including JDF as possible.
Yes, yes. Madam Chair, I was gonna.
So that would take care, excuse
Okay, go
me.
ahead, I'm sorry.
So that would take care of it today that we've stated it,
Sure.
and we're not a couple of meetings away from it. Away from discussing it again, including JDF as possible.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
again, I would like to accept the friendly amendment from my colleague. I think it is a great friendly amendment. So if we want to hear from our legal team, we can, but yes, I would love to
Madam Chair,
accept that.
Yes, Commissioner.
the spirit of the language, but I'd like to state it in a different way
Okay,
and just say, including the charter school at the juvenile detention facility. Right, when we're talking about schools and school districts. And if the idea is we think that the DIA hasn't realized there's a charter school there to reach out to, if we're making the point in here, including the charter school within the JDF, and just use that language. I like that. I like it
that's
that way.
That's an excellent suggestion.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would love to accept that friendly amendment from our Vice Chair as well.
I'll withdraw my,
I'll move that we add the language, including the charter school at the juvenile detention facility. As a sentence right at the end, in partnership with Wayne County Schools, comma,
Yes.
including the charter school at the juvenile detention facility. period.
I second.
Yeah.
It's good. Been moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
We did also do the change there. Let me see. I think we've got to go to the term. That's item 4.3 on page 7. The initial term of this agreement shall commence on April 1st, 2024, and shall run through December 31st, 2026. That would be a 3-year duration or term. And at that time, we would be able to come back and decide what else we might want to be able to do.
Through the chair,
Yes,
I'd like to see it remain 10-year, only because it's so cumbersome, to have to do this every 2 to 3 years. And as I stated earlier, we can still make amendments to the contract in that length of time. So I don't think we're limited. That's all I have.
If I could, Madam Chair,
Certainly.
one of the things that, we tried to do in the subcommittee and our group as a whole, we try to stay, consistent with the tri-county, agreement. And in the tri-county agreement, Oakland County does have it at, December 2026. So if our goal is to stay, consistent with the tri-county, this is already happening. So I do understand what Ms. Lambert is saying, but the overall, we are staying consistent what is already written and agreed and signed with another county. So just so we all can consider that when we're voting on this.
Through the chair, that also, Macomb is also at 10 years. So we're kind of split. So
Sure.
it's a personal thing, I guess.
Sure.
Right.
Through the chair,
yes, sir.
Member Lambert, if I could offer that Macomb's agreement is kind of strange because it's like half of ours and Oakland counties as well. So I don't know what they were really thinking about as they were looking at their financial allotments and things of that nature. They do have the 10-year period,
And that's what we're voting on. So.
but it's
Yeah.
half of what other points are half of
Financial.
what they're doing. Yeah.
It's a county.
Ooh, I didn't know I say that.
Okay,
Madam Chair?
yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll speak against this amendment. First of all, we can amend it anytime. We amended the first one twice. And then we had the whole discussion at this when we discovered that the date on the first service agreement accidentally ran for 11 years instead of 10.
Mhm.
And all through that discussion, the DIA was discussing to keep some, what do you want to call it, among all 3 agreements. The prospect of opening up, to me, the prospect of opening up the entire agreement a year and a half, 2 years from now and going through another process to do another agreement when this is just a contract between 2 parties. If 2 parties want to amend it, they can do it at any time during the term of the agreement. So I'll go with the consistency that it should run with the millage. And if things come up in the meantime that need attention, we can always do that. I'm just nervous to say, well, we're going to stop the clock. We're going to look at the whole agreement again, and go through that exercise. I don't see a purpose to it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Certainly, go ahead.
I have been torn. Should we take advantage of just the shorter term or the longer term? I think really because it's such a lugubrious process, I think that we're better off with the 10-year term. I agree with Vice Chair, Mr. Colleen, that it should be the 10, and we can amend it as needed, but we don't have to go through the whole thing every 3 years. So thank you, Vice Chair Colleen.
So now, well, excuse me, let's restate then what I can hardly talk apparently. State the statement that you just gave, Commissioner.
I'm saying my position is that the 10-year term really is more suitable so that we don't have a drop-off point in 3 years, that we have an underlying agreement that we can amend. I think it really serves the board better to have the 10-year term. That's my position.
Okay, so
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I just could one more time. Our commitment is to the community. And although this is a lot of work, we're not restarting it. Either we would vote to continue with the current agreement, or we would just make some changes. So my commitment to the community is doing what is best to serve the community. And if we have to revisit it in 3 years, and all we're doing is say, yes, we like what's going on, yes, it's okay, then it's not a process that is grueling like this one was. We're not reinventing the wheel. All we're doing is saying that we're going to sign and agree to move forward as we were. So to talk about how much work it is, remember, it wouldn't be this much work. And this is our commitment to the citizens, because in another 3 years, if we have an outcry from the community about this not being fair, this not being proper, then yes, we could amend it, but we could also just revisit it in 3 years also. So I hate to disagree with my colleagues on this, with you guys on this, but I strongly disagree, because there's nothing wrong with revisiting it in 3 years if we're just saying, okay, we're okay with it. Because we will not be starting this process in the subcommittees and trying to come up with an agreement. We would just simply be saying, yes, let's continue on. So that's all I have.
thank you. So now,
Your motion on the floor, then,
yes,
would you like me?
yes, please.
Yes, ma'am, I'll restate the motion. Under item 4.3 term, the initial term of this agreement shall commence on April 1st, 2024, and shall run through December 31st, 2026, which would be a 3-year term.
Mine doesn't say 2026.
No, it
That's
doesn't.
what
That
we
would be
amended.
the change.
Okay,
That's the amended change
Okay, thank
that I'm proposing.
Madam Chair, may we have a roll call vote, please?
But we need a second.
I'll second too. So we can proceed.
So I'll do the roll call vote, if that's okay with you, Ms. Mezzaraka. I'll do the vote for you, if that's
Yes,
okay.
Please.
Thank you.
So, this is for item 3, amendment number 3, 4.3 term of April 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2026. We have a motion by Mr. Grady Muhammad and a second by Ms. Betty Mizaraka. Roll call vote, all those in favor, Renata Sills,
To change the amendment, yes.
Stephen Grady Muhammad,
Yes.
Barbara O'Gall Miller,
No,
Hubert Massey, Maria Lambert,
No,
Lolita Haley, Tim Colleen,
Nope.
Chair Mizaraka.
Yes,
Motion fails to make that amendment.
You say the motion fails?
Yes, I have,
What was the count?
the count was Mr. Grady Muhammad, Renata Sales. Oh, Mr. Grady Muhammad, Renata Sales, and Hubert Massey voting to approve the amendment.
And Lolita Haley and Betty Mizaraka, ma'am.
I don't know what I voted for. Yeah.
Thank you. Motion passes then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Chair,
Yes.
those are the only amendments that we would like to offer to the agreement.
Thank you.
So at this point,
Service agreement. We're to approval of a service agreement. No, I'm okay, thank you. Service agreement with the DIA, and with the last phrase that,
As amended,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
it's approval of the service agreement as amended.
As amended, thank you.
May I have a motion and second, please?
Madam Chair. If I may.
Yes, please.
I do have one other amendment. One was taken care of already to get that date as April 1st, that it starts. But one other amendment
Can I have
under
more
section
information?
2.4, section B. Bill, sir. There's highlighted language there that did not come over from the Oakland agreement, right? And that language with regards to, well, you can both have one. Again, section 2.4B. Yeah, K-12 services. And if you go all the way on the second page, there's two bullet points under in-school K-12 programs.
Mhm.
And then there's a paragraph right after that. And that is,
When was that amendment, John?
I got enough. And that is to, under the language, and this is a little bit of old language, it was just missed, that the 150,000 in support, which is, would now be 250,000, because we've amended, correct?
Mhm.
With the goal of serving 1,600 students, we've already amended that to say 250, but to add in the phrase, which may be used to fund transportation materials, staff, mileage contracts, and other program costs. And I would like to add that language into section 2.4B.
Right here.
I will make that motion to add it.
Is there a second to that motion? Why wasn't it brought up before?
Madam Chair, for clarification, Vice Chair, are you saying that to the provision, the DIA will set aside an annual transportation fund? The one we amended before that to up to 250 and 26,000 students. There's more language you wish to add?
The highlighted language that I
which
just
may be
handed out.
used- Okay, just
Okay,
let me see if I
because-
can integrate it in my mind.
Yeah, because now it will read, set aside an annual transportation and programming allocation. And now that reads, because we're already proposing the amendment, that it's not 150, that it's 250. That's already been agreed to. It's in the same part. And the last part with the goal of serving 1,600, we've already amended that to 2,600. So the
26,000.
highlighted phrase,
1,000. 26,000.
We've already amended it. The highlighted phrase,
No, you misstated it.
that's okay. We all know. Okay? I'm trying to call your attention to the highlighted phrase, which needs to be added. The numbers have already been amended, whatever they are. So that's my motion to add the highlight phrase, Madam Chair.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Marie Lambert.
Discussion,
Discussion.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. First thing I want to say is this. We all have to have an environment here on this board where we respect each other, where we talk to each other with some sense and dignity. And we've already gotten calls from the viewing community about our behavior. And I think we need to do much better. Having said that, I've got a concern about staff, contracts, and other program costs. I don't know what staff, contracts, or other program costs might siphon away from the 250,000 that we are trying to target our children with.
Through the chair, please.
Yes.
Stephen, this is taken directly from Wayne counties. And when we were going through that, we decided to leave it off because it was stated in other sections, the same thing. So this is verbatim in Oakland County's amendment. That's all.
Yes. Through the chair?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. And I can understand that, Member Lambert. I'm just very sensitive since we have increased the 150,000 to 250,000. I want to make sure that that money is going to the kids, not to staff, not to contracts, not to program costs, but to the kids.
So you want to change the wording on that then? I think that's important. We don't want the staff to get it for sure.
Where?
I would offer a friendly amendment to fund transportation, materials, and mileage, and remove staff contracts and maybe program costs with the goal of serving 26,000 Wayne County students. So just removing those three terms, staff contracts and other program costs.
Yeah,
You want to have trouble with that?
I got it.
Madam Chair, I don't accept that as a friendly amendment.
So now what?
Now we're gonna vote.
Now we vote.
Period.
Now we vote
Mhm.
on that,
Any more discussion?
Madam Chair,
certainly.
if I may. In the service agreement that currently exists, the language that the DIA will set aside annual transportation and programming allocation. Before we amended it, it said 150 to support the in-museum field trip as well as the in-school visits that we make. Okay? And that is where we're making the amendment is in there, is to say, because we're talking about both the in-museum field trip and in-school K-12 programs. So the programs that they go out to the schools with. And that's this isn't, we never have had a discussion here that the 150,000 was always about just bus rental and nothing else. That's never been the case. So this just is, this just lays it out. It's also in terms of the audit that gets done. You know, we the annual outside audit that the DIA does. We included, early on, Madam Chair, we met over at the DIA with all of the other two authorities. And we said, we're gonna add to the DIA external audit, agreed upon procedures where the auditor takes the numbers that are in our service agreement and goes through the DIA books to see if those dollars are actually being expended as they should be. We've asked for that right from day one, and we get that in the annual report. So, I think it's, we add back in what's already happening, and, it was just a phrase that got left out, so. I'll stand on my motion as presented.
Madam Chair, request roll call vote.
Okay, certainly. We'll proceed. All those in favor?
Roll call. She's doing
Ren-
roll call.
Renata Sills,
No.
Stephen Grady Mohammed,
No.
Barbara Rogel Miller,
No,
Hubert Massey, Maria Lambert.
Is this to add it? I guess I'm
Yeah,
unclear.
this is.
The motion is to add it.
To add
Yes,
it?
ma'am.
Okay, yes.
Lolita Haley, Tim Colleen,
Yes.
Betty Mizaraka,
No.
looks like we have Ms. Seals, Mr. Grady Mohammed, Ms. Barbara Rogel Miller, Hubert Massey, Lolita Haley, and Betty Mizaraka voting not to add this amendment to the service agreement. So the motion fails.
Just a quick, did you call Member Lambert?
Yes,
Oh,
I
okay.
did, yes.
Good deal. Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to offer an amendment which would include this grade portion, which may be used to fund transportation, materials, and mileage with the goal of serving 26,000 Wayne County students. So removing staff, contracts, and other program costs.
I'll second that.
It's been moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
You have to ask for discussion first.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Any discussion?
Okay, now you can take the vote.
So shall we vote now?
No.
Roll call?
Renata Sills,
Yes.
Stephen Grady Mohammed,
Yes.
Barbara Rogel Miller,
Yes,
Hubert Massey, Maria Lambert,
Yes.
Lolita Haley, Tim Colleen, Betty Mizaraka,
Yes.
motion passed.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to move the service agreement as amended on the floor.
With amendments. Yeah. Motion.
Yes.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposition? Motion carried. Ooh,
We're on to item G, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the board.
no one has spoken.
Moving to item H, public comments. Madam Chair,
Yes.
I do have an email and there may be some hands raised on Zoom for public comment. Are we allowing what's the time allowed for public comments, ma'am?
I don't know, 5 minutes or 3 minutes?
And on Zoom, looks like we have Halima.
Dang. Greetings, honorable body. May I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you. Please speak.
Okay, thank you. I wish to thank you all for your service and especially the Service Agreement Subcommittee. I wish to thank Member Seals, particularly for reminding the body that your responsibility is to the Wayne County community, to the children, the residents, and the taxpayers, and not to the DIA. I push back on Vice Chair Colleen's assertion that you are partners with the DIA. You are the regulators. And you are our front line to make sure how these precious public dollars are being allocated. To be quite honest, over 10 years, $70 million, that could go to a lot of other things in Wayne County. And so I want to thank you, and I want to thank Member Grady Muhammad for keeping the students, no matter where they are, at the forefront. What I find troubling is that you all are still tweaking at the margins. There should be 100% transparency for all the public dollars that are going to the DIA. It's kind of like giving your kid $20 lunch money and only asking them to report on $1. I appreciate the increase. However, compared with the compounded interest that will happen over the lifetime of this millage, it's peanuts. We need to know where all of the money is going. We also need qualitative analysis. How is this impacting our children? How is this impacting the ecosystem of artists and content producers and everyone in Wayne County? We need benchmarks. We need the DIA to really show and prove that we are getting the return on our investment for our precious public tax dollars. I am a proponent of the DIA. I am here because I wish to see it the best it can possibly be. And I wish that your body would take up the charge, listen to the public. I also find it quite disingenuous and troubling that you would have one, even though your subcommittee mentioned 4 to hit all parts of Wayne County town halls, and that would come after the signing. However, I am heartened to see that this is a 3-year deal, and perhaps we can get some more substantive, meaningful amendments that really do move the needle on our return for investment. Thank you so much. Hold on, baby, hold on. One sec.
We have a hand raised from Ms. Frizzelli. Ms. Frizzelli, you may not speak. Taranay,
Greetings all, can I be heard?
yes, you may speak.
Thank you. I want to start, I want to echo Halima's sentiments of thanking you for your service, especially the subcommittee, and especially hearing these amendments that are specifically for the children and not administration. I think that was really important in highlighting children everywhere. I think for my comments today, I have a lot to say, but I think I'll target them on what seems to be going most directly into the things in front of the committee, since this agreement has already been passed. I think there's some fundamental terms of the agreement that I, as a art curator and educator and community member, fundamentally disagree with. And yeah, I think it would be really lovely if, that's why I appreciate some of these adjustments and also the shorter term of the contract, because I do believe that 10 years is a long time. I was working in museum education 10 years ago, and where the field is now is quite different than then. And so some of these amendments, I think even the idea of how much money goes to field trips to DIA versus going out to schools, there's been huge shifts in teaching artists, decimation of public arts infrastructure. I also think that we should not just be supporting children, but there's a whole robust arts infrastructure that needs to be supported with public funds. And with so much money going to the DEA, there's a responsibility for DEA to do more than support school children and some community partnerships. So I think I'll focus more on, I would say, transparency and accountability, because that came up today. I agree with, I think there was just some minor revisions where, yes, maybe you all see the DIA as a partner, but even partners need to be accountable. And I agree with Halima that it's not a partner, you're separate bodies. And I do think that self-reporting is not a reputable approach in the field to accountability and verification broadly. I also think transparency, raising again the town hall meeting, and that was canceled due to some scheduling difficulties, it sounds like, but also these meetings have continually been postponed. It's very hard to find out when they're going to happen. It's very hard to leave work for them. And so, it's a little unfortunate that the town hall is now going to occur after this has been passed. But I would really encourage you to have a town hall and not just rely on us to distribute this in our networks, but to make it actually public and shared broadly. And having some kind of indication of dialogues with the community where we don't just leave public comment at the end and don't know how it's interpreted or if it's heard. So I appreciate, hearing more about that in the future. Thank you.
Steve Patton, you may speak.
May I be heard?
Yes, you may.
When the public vote for a millage, they're voting for an idea. They quite reasonably expect that there is somebody that's going to negotiate on their behalf to get an appropriate deal for the amount of money that they're putting in. By this body's own admission, this service agreement was written by the DIA's own lawyers. It is effectively substantially the same as the previous service agreement that again was written by the DIA's lawyers that reflected the activities of the DIA in 2012. And I accept that there have been some tweaks, but not the substantial ones. Given that the agreement was written by the DIA's lawyers, of course, it is in the DIA's favor. It most meets the needs of the DIA. Like the previous speakers, I call for more accountability, quantitative accountability, checks and balances, and generally a more critical approach. There's times when you have to support. There's times when you have to challenge. There's times when you have to get out of the way. Seems like this body supports and gets out of the way. I've never heard it challenge the DIA, despite the fact that it is actually underachieving compared to the institutions in the 8 closest metropolitan areas by size. I'm very, very glad and heartened that this agreement will be revisited at the end of 2026. Deadlines are good. This body has failed to meet deadlines, even those that were legislatively required, and is approximately 4 years late in coming up with this service agreement, which should have been in place in principle at the millage vote. So I think it's entirely appropriate that you will revisit this over the next 3 years. What was happening in 2012 is not relevant to what's happening today. This is a very bad agreement as far as the public is concerned. And I think that it just needs to be revisited. I hope your successors on this board will be given the opportunity to do that. Thank you very much.
Ms. Mamie Jackson?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you for the opportunity to join this discussion. I'd like to just kind of affirm my agreement with the previous speakers, both their concerns and their thanks to you all for your public service. I know it's not an easy thing, and I think you probably hear more critiques than you hear expressions of gratitude. But I think what we're talking in, all of us, is a kind of spirit of collaboration with you as public figures are making decisions on behalf of the public. And when others like us show up, I think we're showing up to work with you, to kind of express our thoughts, to thank you for your work, but also to give you input so that you have a larger picture than you may have. I have a lot of the same concerns that have already come up. In fact, I have to say, a bit surprised by today's meeting, both by the kind of raggedy parliamentary process, but also by kind of not responding to some of the public responses that had come up at the previous meeting. I think the concerns are really about transparency and public input, which has been, to my mind, kind of surprisingly put off until after an agreement was made to this proposal. I kind of saw this, understood this to be a special meeting where I think, useful report of the subcommittee was made. I expected it to be discussed and then brought up for consideration after public input at a regular meeting rather than at a special meeting. I mean, that is aside, that's kind of the small part of it. The larger part, I think, is really the bigger picture. Now, I don't know how many of you read the article by the director of the DIA in the Wall Street Journal on February 15th. 2024. And if you didn't read it, I think you really should read it. In that article, he talks about how the DIA has crafted a new financial model for museums. And he cites the two millages, overlapping millages, or well, I guess the second one isn't overlapping, it's extending. So over a 20-year period, using the millages that the proceeds that are coming into the museum to support programs that you are putting into this document and overseeing to a degree. But I think without, one of the other things that came up at the preceding meeting was, gee, there are no performance reviews. There's no accountability. There's no way for your commission to oversee without regular performance reviews coming to you and coming to public view. So there's not really a way for you to do that part of your job. But the DIA, the director of the DIA, cites how the DIA is receiving $28.6 million a year through this millage, and that this is covering about 70% of their overall operating costs. And they are able to actually not use all of their regular budget and to build their endowment with the aim. And I mean, it's a kind of, I'm on the side of the DIA too, because it's a wonderful, not only Detroit museum, but national museum and worldwide museum. And we really have a treasure in the DIA. But the DIA does have a way of taking the oxygen out of the room when other people are looking for help. And they went for that millage 2 years before the previous millage was over. They're making a very good, they're being able, through the use of the millage, to build up their endowment. And they're aiming for...
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Your 3 minutes is up. How much longer do you have to speak?
Less than a minute. I'll just say
Okay.
that
Thank
the directors claim in that article in the New York, in the Wall Street Journal, February 15th, is that by the end of the millage, they will have built their endowment from what was something around 50 million to over 800 million, and be able to rely on that to produce the income that this millage over a 20-year period has allowed them to do by investing from their accounts. So, I mean, I just want to say, you know, they're really doing that, and it's well serving the DIA, but we have to think as a public about a larger public and the larger needs of that larger public. And I would like you to kind of come back to this and visit that with a larger view. Thank you for the time to talk.
And thank you for your input and for your suggestions. And we're happy that you're watching and trying to help us accomplish what we all want.
Well, that's the spirit that the comments are intended in a sense of working with you. We're all in this.
Thank you very much.
Next, we
Thank
have
you.
Kate Levy.
Hi, may I be heard?
Certainly.
Yes.
Okay, hi. Thank you so much for convening this meeting. I'll make my comments very brief. I understand that over the past 8 years, this body failed to do the audit required by law. I think there needs to be more community transparency for the community, more accountability. I'd love to see a community advisory board for how these dollars are spent, or at the very least, we need to have more awareness of when there are public meetings. I find out about these meetings because it's easier to ask my friends than it is to, find out through you all. So I'd also, like to reiterate that there are many wonderful artists in this community who do not benefit from these dollars. And I'd like to see that change. I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your input.
We have an email by Me Gunn. And it reads, I am concerned that the service agreement under discussion today includes no public input and hasn't been made available for public comment. Why not? I understand that the body never followed through with its stated intention of holding public discussion. I also understand that the service and benefits defined in the current service contract reflect what the DAA was doing in 2012 prior to the millage. The new service agreement to contain a framework and process to assist what services the public currently wants and how best to provide them. As a taxpayer, I care about where my tax dollars are going. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I see no other hands on Zoom and there weren't any other emails received.
Did you have a name on that last speaker?
Kate Livy,
Any address or phone or just a name?
just a name, ma'am.
I'd like to make sure that we get more than just a name when they call in, whether they live in Wayne County or where Timbuktu.
So as it is now, when they log on into Zoom, we're just calling them from Zoom. But for those who have left public comments, if you would like to submit your name and your phone number via the Wayne County Arts Authority email, I can share it with the board.
Okay. Oh, do we have to, any other statements on that?
Madam
Next.
Chair,
Yes.
I don't have a statement on that, but I do have a statement.
Good.
That was my first service agreement with this body, and I just want to thank, I don't want to call out individual members because I probably have a story about everyone here at the table, but I want to thank you all for taking me under your wing and into your confidence and giving me the opportunity to serve the citizens of the city of Wayne, of the county of Wayne. Thank you so much.
You're the big bird with the big wings. I can't hear you.
Are we on to the next item, Chair? Can we proceed to the next item?
Next item.
Item I, adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Moved in second. All those in favor?